It is very nice to see you, and we have had such a good time here at Shabab Al-Fahd School. You guys have been very hospitable and very friendly, and it's just amazing to me that educators, when I first said good morning, all look right back at me, because lots of times when I talk with educators, they like to keep talking. So thank you very much for your attention. My name is Dr. Mike Poe, and I'm one of the Associate Directors for Array Global Educational Services. One of the things that comes along with your accreditation through Array Global, things like these workshops and assistance that we are able to give on a regular basis. So I just want to thank all of you for your participation. Let me tell you a little bit about me before we get started. I am old, pure and simple. My first students, when I first started teaching, are now in their late 50s and have grandchildren. So it's always fun because I've stayed in the same area, and they bring their grandchildren to me, to meet me and to introduce me. So I've been doing this for a while. When I first became a school administrator, I was 27. That's very young. Most of the teachers were old enough to be my parents. And I'm going to talk about that during the presentation today and how they helped me become a better professional. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to talk about being a professional. We have some activities for you to do as well. But the idea that we're not going to just talk about professionalism. We're going to talk about how to be professional. And the nice thing about it is, much of what I say, you're probably going to go, I already do that. And that's okay. There may be some things that you go, haven't thought about that before. And that's okay as well. Learning isn't always new. Sometimes it's reinforcing what we have already done and what we are already doing, which makes us feel good about ourselves and the things that we're doing. So, let's talk about a professional frame of mind. First of all, we start with our thoughts. We have to be thinking like a professional. Thinking like a professional all the time. We're going to talk a lot more about that here in a little bit. Then, our words. Talking like a professional. And understanding things about the people that we talk to, how we talk to them, both parents, each other, and students, and people in the community. Because one of the things to remember is that you represent this school in the community, so you are all recruiters. You are all recruiting students. Even though you may not do it intentionally, that's what you're doing. And then our deeds, how we act like a professional. I will confess to you that there are times in my career that I did not act very professionally. And I had to stop myself and talk to myself about what I was doing or saying that wasn't professional and change. And that's part of what we will work with today. So, in terms of thinking like a professional, remember that your job is one of the most important jobs in the world. Now, I would tell you that it's the most important job in the world. But every time I say that, somebody says, no, being a parent is the most important job, or being this is the most important job. So I phrase it as, your job is one of the most important jobs in the world. But remember that education is the basis for all other careers. It's a little easier with YouTube now. You can learn things, but really, they're just teaching you. Same thing with you. As you are teaching your students, they have different interests, and they move into different careers, and you help them learn not only the knowledge that they need, but you help them learn how to learn and how to do things. And that is so important. Another thing to think about is that your success is based on the success of the people around you. Quite honestly, Mr. Muhammad's award that he won yesterday is because of you. Because of your success with school, with the students, and how he has worked with you to help you be successful. That's why he won that award. You are not a success just because you are a teacher. You are a success because of how well your students do. Now, not every student is going to be great, don't get me wrong. But in the whole, as your students move forward to the higher grades, into university, into work, the way you have worked with them, taught them, is going to be so important to them in their adult lives. And we need to remember that we influence them. Then the next piece is, how can I improve what I'm doing? One of the things about being a professional is constantly deciding, I'm going to be better than I was today. Not better than the teacher next door, not better than the teachers in another school. I'm going to be better than I was. And working through that will make you a better teacher. In fact, it will make you a phenomenal teacher. And the one at the bottom says, don't let the imposter syndrome bother you or hold you back. The imposter syndrome, and I have it, I recognize it. I am always amazed, quite honestly, when people ask me to do a workshop. In my mind, I think, what do I have to say? Why would they want to listen to me? But that's the imposter syndrome taught me. The idea that I'm really not good enough to be doing this job, and somebody's going to find me out. You are doing the best that you can, and then you look at, how do I improve what I'm doing? That's how you beat the imposter syndrome. Teachers are very common to have that. In fact, my oldest daughter and my youngest daughter, my oldest daughter is a middle school orchestra teacher. My youngest daughter is a clinical counselor. They just did a workshop for music teachers about the imposter syndrome and how to beat that, because, well, I'm not good enough to direct, or I'm not good enough to sing that, or I'm not good enough to teach that. Yes, you are. You have to believe in yourself. Okay, here's an activity for you. What is something you want to change professionally that you're willing to share with other people? And I want you to write it down. Then once you write it down, I want you to look at, what do you need to make the change happen? I want you to write that down. So do that right now. So something you're willing to change. Like, for example, for me, maybe how to do better PowerPoint presentations, or how better to explain something. So think about something that you want to change or you want to improve in your teaching. And go ahead and write that down, or think about it, however you want to do that. Give you a couple of moments to think. So, then again, remember, what do you need to make the change happen? Do you need help from Mr. Muhammad? Do you need help from the other teachers in your department? Do you need to do more research? Do you need to get better sleep? You want more money? Yeah. I've been with teachers all over the world, and none of them get paid enough. How's that? Okay, now I'd like you to share with the person next to you what you want to improve and what do you need to improve with. What do you need to improve? Go ahead and share. This is a participation time.
My name is Mr. Ahmed, I'm an English teacher. For me, I want to develop myself for how to deal with special students in needs, like autism. I can deal with normal students, but students like autism or have autism, I think that I can deal with them very good. So I want to take some courses. So how can I deal with them? Thank you.
Dr. Lisa did a great job yesterday of showing you not only how these special needs happen in the brain, but also talking about how to work within their classrooms. There's lots of material about that. Thank you. Anybody else would like to share?
The most important thing, using cooperative learning, active learning. When I teach vocab, teach grammar, I should use CCQs. And as Dr. Lisa said before, using visual aids is very important because it reaches to the mind fast. So every one of us as a teacher should use strategies in teaching because it's the most important thing to reach the knowledge and information. As me, in my classroom, I can motivate my students by giving them some money if he says the answer well, because I face some problems in my classroom. Sometimes I meet a student that he doesn't need to study because he has taken it before, as in private lesson, whatever. So I should motivate them in different ways to make my teaching effectively and find fun to reach to my goals in teaching. Thank you.
Yes. And using good techniques is very important. And the people from whom I learned most of the good techniques I know were from other teachers. You have an amazing resource on your faculty on how to teach different ways, because we're all different. We all learn things. I was a science teacher. Kids would come in, I would teach, give my notes, we would do experiments and those kinds of things. When I became an administrator, I went into an English teacher's classroom, and the first thing the teacher had on the board when the students came in, what they called it daily oral language, we called it later something else different. She had a question on the board about either what happened the day before or what was going to happen that day, and she would have them do a writing sample. Then, when all the students were in, she had roll taken, she had all that taken care of, then they would discuss what the students had written. And then if it was something from yesterday, she knew whether or not she needed to review, or if she could move on. If she talked about something that was going to happen today, and all of the students already knew it, then she could move on. She could teach it very briefly, just as a review, and then move on to something new. So utilizing those kinds of things, I did it in my science class. I would do the same thing. I would have either a quick couple of questions about the day before, or a couple of quick questions about what was going on today, and be able to review through those. But I didn't think of that. Other teachers thought of that. And we're going to talk about later, in fact I have some homework for you at the end, about how to work in groups to share your language, your ideas, and to share with each other so that you can all become better teachers. I think this is true for every teacher I've ever been around. No teacher that I know of gets up in the morning, looks in the mirror, and says, you know, I'm going to go to school today and do a terrible job. Nobody says that. They're doing the best they can right then. And so learning to improve yourself and being willing to share with others and be willing to tell somebody, I don't do that very well, can I watch you? Being willing to share and be vulnerable in that way is immensely helpful, being professional. Anybody else want to share before we move on? We got down here.
Okay, as I have a big problem in my course, the paperwork. How can I overcome my problems with my paperwork in that job, especially with a heavy timetable? I think it is very exhausting. Okay. Also, in my behavior, sometimes I feel nervous when I deal with some students.
Sure. Yeah. And I don't have a good answer for you, but you know what? I'll bet somebody in this audience today does have an answer for you. And thank you for being willing to share that you have a problem, so that now your friends can then help you with that problem. I have to do that a lot with my friends. Yes.
I have an issue that irritates me all the time when teaching English. Should I speak American accent, or should I speak British accent, or should I use my own accent? Because we here in our community, in the Arab community, we have a big issue about accent. We think that we all should speak either American accent or British accent. But myself, I have a belief, and I believe that we should use our own accent in teaching our kids English. And you understand me, and it's not a problem to understand my accent, even I don't speak American or British accent.
Okay.
Thank you.
So, in the United States, there are a lot of different accents they all speak English. Quite honestly, some of them I don't understand very well, but they're still speaking English. So, whatever you are feeling the most comfortable in terms of teaching the English, is what you should do. It's not very many people that take on other accents very well unless they are living in that environment all the time. It's very difficult for a student living here in Taif to develop an American accent, because who are they going to talk to that's speaking English? It's not Americans. Same thing with British accent. So I think as long as the diction, the pronunciation is clear and is understandable, whatever you want, whatever works best for you. Yeah, we got one more question.
Even the pilots, they don't pay attention to your accent. They
Right.
respect it. International justice, they respect it.
Okay, great. We got another question.
Okay. I think if I want to be a professional in my job, I need to be satisfied with it. And if I want to be satisfied with it, I need a good salary. And I need a comfortable accommodation to be relaxed and do my best effort later on. Thank you.
Okay. Like I said, I've never run into a group of teachers who all thought they were getting paid well. That's around the world, that's universal. Okay, let's move on.
Just think, please. I think changing the educational process professionally is like what you are doing now. You are asking a question and you are giving us all the respect and listening to us as if we are great people and as if we are president. You give us all the respect. So it encourages me to speak and say what I want to. Right? And we would like to thank you for this.
Thank you. So please understand, I do respect you. I have been in the classroom. I've been in classrooms around the world, and you are doing a great job. So please please have respect for yourselves as professionals and for the field that you're in, because the students will appreciate that. And the students will learn from you how to be a professional in their job as well. One more back there.
ما هو الحل الأمثل لدمج البيئة التعليمية بالبيئة المحيطة بالتكنولوجيا الحديثة؟
Mr. Walid is saying, what is the best solution to connect the educational environment with the surrounding environment? So he's suggesting that I have to engage the modern technology inside the classroom with the surrounding environment. That's what I'm going to say.
Okay. So one of the ways to help with learning overall in your building is for the departments to work together so that the students are doing things, they start to understand that the English class fits in with the math class, fits in with the English class, with the history class. The integration, that's exactly right. Let me give you an example of what I did. I taught science. I had to do a research project about alternative energy. This was clear back in the 1980s, so alternative energy was just coming on. I worked with the English teachers so that they taught the research process. They helped with the research in the library. I worked with the research from the science standpoint. At the end, they wrote one paper. The English teacher graded the English part, and I graded the science part. Same thing with math and science. They fit well together. History, having them write a historical piece about whatever you want, whatever time period or activity or whatever, and then working with the English teacher so that the students only write one paper rather than writing 2 or 3. So that integration between the subject matters is very important.
In Egypt, we have this point of view. We have CLIN, Content Language Integrated Learning. And we have them in the Egyptian curriculum. We have the Connectors and Connect Plus. Focus on CLIN, Content Language Integrated Learning.
So think of all the information you have to share with the other folks. The non-Egyptians. All right. Let's talk about talking like a professional. This is an area that I've had some troubles. Yeah, that's what you were mentioning just a second ago. At times I have had struggles with this, and I'll talk about that in a second. But being respectful with the people, not only the students, but your colleagues, the parents, and the people in the community. How many of you would like to be talked down to? No, none of us like that. Not at all. So speak confidently. You're experts in your field. You're experts at teaching. So speak confidently about it, but don't put people down. Don't talk down to them. That doesn't work. An example from my own life that I'm not proud of, but I learned. My supervisor came to, when I was an assistant principal, my supervisor came to me and said, I have to talk to you. It was a difficult conversation for her, and I understood it. Said, you use a phrase, you need to understand, whatever. And I used it all the time with the students. I used it so much with the students that I was also using it with the teachers. So I was disrespecting them and their experience, and I had to learn not to say, you need to understand. And to just share the information, because you're adults, you're very educated, and you'll be able to understand it. So yes, that respect is exceedingly important. I hope I do better at that nowadays. Just talk about difficult conversations. If you're in a difficult conversation, don't get upset about it. Don't be willing to have it. The reason these are called difficult conversations is we don't want to do them. Either we need to have a conversation with a friend, or maybe our supervisor, or maybe it's a parent, maybe it's a student, but you're feeling uncomfortable because you may have to share information that isn't always the most positive. But if you don't share the information, how are they going to learn? And if you're on the receiving end of a difficult conversation, being willing to listen to what the person has to say, not be upset, and make decisions based on the conversation, not the yelling or screaming or those kinds of things that sometimes happen. Another personal example that happened literally just this last week. We're working with a school, and through the review process, I missed some things. Quite honestly, I'll own up to it. And the people that recognized that came to me, we sat down, they were very respectful. They didn't talk down to me, they didn't say, why didn't you know this? Or what about this or that? They told me where the information was and had to take a look at it. They were very respectful in terms of how they did that. It was a difficult conversation for them to have. It was difficult for me to listen to, but I also understood that I had made a mistake, and it was time to correct that mistake. So having those difficult conversations, sometimes you plan them, sometimes you don't. But being willing to have those conversations is the way that we all grow and we all learn. Okay? Know your audience and talk appropriately. Educators are, I'm trying to think of what adjective I use. I'll put it in a positive frame. Educators are really good about using abbreviations in the way they talk. We do it all the time. Talking about the school improvement plan, what we call it the SIP. We talk about the LRE, least restrictive environment. We talk about building plans, we call them EPs. That's okay amongst ourselves. But if you're talking to a parent or somebody in the community, don't use those. Tell them what it means, then you can use it. You say, in our school improvement plan, we call it the SIP. This is what we do. Again, first one, me. I was at a dinner with some other college friends at one of the friends' house, and we were doing that. We were using all these abbreviations during the dinner. There were other people, other family members at the dinner. The father, rightfully so, said, time out. I understand that you're all excited about what we're talking about and so on, but there are other people at the table, and we don't know what you're talking about. You need to not use the abbreviations and teach us what those abbreviations mean. And he was exactly correct. So knowing your audience, if you're talking to parents, you're going to talk differently than if you're talking to each other. And that's from, if you want to talk about strange things, listen to engineers talk. They are all the time doing those kinds of things. But they're talking amongst themselves, not to that. So making sure that people understand the vocabulary that you are using, right? All right, here's another activity for you. And during this activity, we're going to take a break. So this will be about a 10 to 15 minute break. Yeah, 10 minutes, okay. So, Think of a time when someone spoke down to you, whether it was when you were a child, and when you were in school, when you were a university student, at work, someplace where you felt like somebody talked down to you. So, how did it make you feel? Yeah. So then the question becomes, do you really want to make anybody else feel that way? I don't think so. So here's the homework part, or the activity part. Think of a difficult conversation, and you're not going to share this unless you want to with somebody. A difficult conversation that you need to have with someone, whether it's a spouse, or it's another teacher, or a student, or a parent. But think about a difficult conversation that you need to have. Write down why you think it will be difficult. And then, what are some things that you can do to make it less difficult? It may be changing your attitude will make it less difficult. But think about those kinds of things. So while you're doing, you can share with others if you'd like, but only if you want to. With that, we're going to take a 10-minute break, and we'll come back at 12:45.